All right, so here I am in a new blank file. And the way I got to this new file was I just went up to File and then New from Template, and then I chose the Architectural Inches template. Once you're in a new file, you can go ahead and just delete out your little person. We're not going to need them anymore. And then what we're going to do is import in a CAD file, very similar to what we've done in Revit in the past, so that we can sort of draw on top of a floor plan. Okay, so I've uploaded this CAD file to the Canvas page, so you can go ahead and just download it and save it somewhere. But I'm just going to go ahead and load that in. So to do that in SketchUp, you go up here to File, and then you go to Import, and then you navigate to where that is, and then click it. So it's going to be this one that's called simplehouseplan.dwg. Just select it and then click on Import. And then once this little window pops up, just click on Close, and that's going to load up the actual file within the viewport. Now, you should probably recognize this file from a previous project that we've done in a past course. I wanted to use this one again just so that you get the idea of how you would create the exact same thing in SketchUp as opposed to how you would do it in Revit. Okay, but the first thing that we want to do, if you remember back from when I have covered how to import CAD stuff into Revit, is we want to change the color of all these lines so that it's easier to work with, so that we can differentiate our geometry from the line work underneath. Okay, so the first thing to do is to go over here to your tags section and create a new layer. And I'm going to call this one AutoCAD. And then I'm going to select my drawing, and I'm going to go up here to the top, and where it says tag untagged, I'm going to switch that to AutoCAD to change it to the AutoCAD layer. After I've done that, I'm going to double click within my group, and then I'm going to select all these components here, and I'm going to go up here to tag and then switch the components to AutoCAD as well. That is just going to move them off of their individual layers, so like doors and glazing and walls, and it's all going to move it over to the AutoCAD layer. So you can have actual the group itself be on its own layer, but then you can have all the components within the group on their own layers. And I'm basically just making everything go onto the AutoCAD layer. After we've done that, I'm going to go back down here to the tags section, and I'm going to start deleting out all of these layers. So I'm going to start here at a door and then just click on delete. Now it's going to say that there's components that are on that layer, and I'm just going to go to where it says assign to another tag and then switch those to AutoCAD for all of them. And then this one that says untagged, that is in there by default, so we're just going to leave it as is. And then after we've done that, we're going to go to the styles section, and we're going to go here to where it says color all same, and we're going to set that to by material. And then that's going to kind of change the colors back to their AutoCAD layer colors. After we've done that, we're going to double click on the group for our drawing to get within it, and I know I'm in it because I see these dotted lines around it. Then I'm just going to select everything within that group, and I'm going to go to my materials, and I'm going to find a color to assign to this line work. So I like to do sort of like a pinkish color. That's just what I've always done, but you can choose any color you want. Just make sure that it's something light and that it's not really close to black. So I'm going to choose this one that says light coral, and I'm going to click the paint bucket on top of the lines, and then when you see up here at the top that it says the color changed to the pink color, you should be good. Okay, I can see that there's still a few things that did not change color. So I'm just going to select everything again, and then I'm going to, I want to make sure I'm in the component, select everything again, and then right click, and then click on explode. And then again, select everything a second time, and then I'm going to click on my paint swatch, and I'm going to paint it one more time, and then that should override everything to the same color like that. Now that I have all that, I'm going to Just make sure everything looks okay, and it does. And then I'm just going to toggle my AutoCAD layer on and off to make sure that's disappearing. So that does disappear like I wanted to. And now I should be good to go in and start modeling all this geometry. Okay, so to do this, we're going to need to create a few layers for the geometry first. So the first one I'm going to need is a floor layer. Second one is going to be exterior walls. And then we'll do interior walls. And then doors. And then windows. Okay, so that should be all the layers that we're going to need. Now what I want to do is go here in my tags section, and you might have to drag your window to the left a little bit to make it slightly bigger, but over here on the right side you can see there's this little pencil next to each layer, and that's indicating which layer is currently active. So anything that I draw right now is automatically going to go on the untagged layer, but if I switch this to like floor, for example, now anything I draw is going to automatically be assigned to the floor layer, so I don't have to go in and select things and manually change them later on. So as you're drawing, whenever you're switching the type of object you're making, you just want to go in here on the right side and you want to switch your active layer to be the correct layer so that you don't have to go in and select things and move them later. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to start drawing my floor. So to do this, basically, I'm going to choose my lines tool, and then I'm just going to click on all the exterior points here all the way around. So we're going to start here at the top left and then drag down to this one, and then this point, and then this point here, and just work all the way around on these exterior wall endpoints until we get back to the start. And then once we're back to the start, you can see it creates this white surface, and then I know that it successfully made the geometry. Now that that's done, I'm going to use my push-pull tool, and I'm going to click once on my face and then drag down, and then I'm going to type 12 inches or 1 foot, and that's going to give me like a little floor slab. After I've done that, I need to take all the floor geometry and group it together so that I don't get that sticky geometry problem that I explained in the previous video. So to easily do this, what you can do is just triple click on any face or edge of an object. So I'm going to click 3 times really quickly, and that's going to select everything at once that is a part of that floor geometry. And then I can just right click on it and then go to make group, and now that is all grouped together nicely, and I don't have to worry about it interfering with the walls or anything. Now that that's done, I can go ahead and draw on my walls. So I'm going to turn off my floor layer. Actually, first you gotta switch to your exterior walls layer. You gotta make that active, and then you can turn off floors. Then what I'm going to do is basically draw the exact same thing again. So I'm going to click on my lines tool, and I'm going to go around the perimeter all the way on all those points. And there's actually a few different ways you could do this, but I'm going to try to show you what I think is probably the easiest way. So go to all these points. Oops, I need to redo that line. I made it too short, so I'm just going to Control Z to undo that and then draw it in there. All right, now I'm going to use my offset tool, and I'm going to click on my surface here, and I'm going to offset it and click on one of these inside points to offset it the same distance as the thickness of the wall on the plan. So after I've done that, I can now switch back to my select tool, select this inside surface, and delete that out. And then I'm just left with basically this ring of the wall going all the way around. All right, now that that is done, what I can do is use my extrude tool or my push-pull tool, and I can click on that surface and then drag up and then type in my dimension. So I'm going to make these 10 foot tall and then hit enter, and that's going to extrude them up. All right, now that we've done that, the next step would be to add in all of the openings on the exterior wall for all of our doors and windows. In Revit, that is done automatically because Revit's intelligent and it can sense like object hosting. And so if you put a door or a window into a wall, it's going to automatically cut the opening for you, which is really nice. But with SketchUp being a little bit simpler, you have to do that manually, which can be a bit annoying, but we're going to go ahead and do that now. Now, the first problem that you see is it's going to be kind of hard to do because I cannot see where those window and door locations are very easily on my floor plan since the walls are now covering them. So for this reason, that's why I told you in the previous video to assign the X-ray mode to your X key on your keyboard. So now if I click X, I can easily switch to X-ray mode and I can now see where all those lines are located on my floor plan, and I can draw on my openings. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to start out with all the doors and then I'm going to go around and do all of the windows. So this is going to maybe take a little bit of time, hopefully not too long though. But starting out with the doors here, I'm going to use my line tool and I'm just going to draw these straight lines here and here on all of them. So I'm going to start there, draw a line there to the end, and then draw a line there. And actually this might be a little bit easier to do with the shapes tool. So I'm just going to use the rectangle under the shapes tool to do it. So that's one door. Then I'm going to go and do it on this door here, corner to corner. And then this one here. And then the front door should be the last one. All right, now that that's done, I can use my push-pull and I can kind of orbit my view around to the underside of the drawing. And you can see now I have the option to extrude only the portion of the door. So I can click once on that and drag upward, and then I'm just going to type 7 feet as my dimension. And now the cool thing is, since I've done that one time, all I have to do is double click on all of the other door openings and it's going to extrude it the exact same amount. So the nice thing about the push-pull is it's intelligent and it remembers the last extrusion you did. So if you're going to be doing a bunch of extrusions the exact same distance, you can just double click and it's going to do the exact same thing on all of them. So I'm just going to go around and double click on them. Alternatively, you could click once and then you could drag your cursor over the top point on one of these doors and you can see it's going to match that height of that point automatically. So then when you click on it, it automatically replicates it all at the same height. So there's all my door openings, that was pretty easy. The harder part is going to be the windows, because the windows, unlike the doors, they're going to have a solid piece of wall underneath of them. So to do this, I think probably the most easy way would be to use our rectangle tool. And then I know that there's a window right here. So I'm just going to draw just a rectangle within the face of this wall. And I'm not going to be too fussy about where it is because I can easily resize it. So just going to do a rectangle right there. Then what I want to do is use my push-pull, and I want to click on that new surface that I've made on the front face of the wall, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to drag, and I'm going to align it with this top edge right here. When I do that, it's just going to automatically create an opening through the wall. Now that I have that done, I can extrude this top face up and align it to the top of my door there. And then I can do the same thing for the sides. So I can move that inward until I get to this edge of the window opening there, and then do the same thing on this side. And then for the bottom, so I want the bottom to be probably 3 feet high, I want to say. Yeah, so this is a 7 foot opening, so I'm gonna have a 2x4 window. So I want the bottom to be 3 feet off of the floor. So to easily get that, I'm gonna switch back to my line tool, and I'm going to draw a line straight up just on this face right here, and I'm gonna draw that up 3 feet, and then click escape a couple times, switch back to my push-pull, and then extrude my face and then use that top point of the line as a reference. So now that opening is exactly how I want it to be. And then I can just get rid of that there because I don't need it anymore. Now what I can do, and this doesn't always work perfectly, but I should be able to create a selection window around this window opening that I made to just get that geometry there, like so. And then I can use my move tool, and I can choose one of these endpoints down here on the floor plan, and then click my control key to do a copy. Click once on that point, and then drag over to the right, and then click once again to replicate that. And then if I click escape, you can see it did copy it over, but it actually didn't cut a hole through the wall. So I'm going to click on my X key to switch back out of X-ray mode, and you can kind of see the problem. So what I'm going to do is just use my shapes tool again and draw another rectangle from corner to corner right there. To see if that can fix the issue. And looks like that's not working, so that might not be the best way to do this. So I'm just gonna have to manually draw these ones in as well. So I'm just gonna highlight that and delete it out. Sometimes that technique works, but it doesn't work all the time. So again, this is not too difficult though. I can just make a random, as long as I'm snapped to the correct face. So you want to make sure you're kind of like in an open area like this, where you're not going to be overlapping with these lines. And it might actually be easier to do this not in X-ray mode, because then you know you're drawing right on top of the wall. So you can just draw in a couple of these. I know that there's going to be 2 windows here. I can draw in 2 openings, and then I can extrude those through like that. And then I can very easily just align my bottoms and then align the tops. And then if you rotate to an underneath view, you can align the sides as well. And then you could switch to your X-ray mode, and you could do the other sides. You can do it in either X-ray mode or solid mode, doesn't really matter. But as you can see, this is a bit more of a manual process than you would have in Revit, which is kind of annoying, but it has its own perks. So as I'm doing this, you're probably thinking, now when would I ever do this in an actual project? Because this obviously looks like it takes way longer than Revit. Well, if you're wanting to do some kind of like special rendering, and you want to use like a plugin or something that Revit doesn't have, that only Sketchup supports, you might want to come in here and only model a portion of your project, like maybe one room or something. That's not going to take you forever. And then just render that one room and make it look really nice using the tools that you have available in SketchUp. So it's not great for everything, and it might not be good for like a super large project, but it definitely has its strength when it comes to some of these smaller projects for sure. So I'm just going to go around and I'm going to add in a few of these, and I'm not going to do all of them. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to kind of finish this off and do the rest of these windows, because it's pretty much the same exact process for all of them. Once you have one of them in, it's not so hard to kind of like reference off of the original one like I'm doing here and get these put into the right spot. I'm going to do one here on this angle to kind of show you how that angled one works. But you're just going to draw in a shape and then extrude it backward so it's aligned with the inside edge. And then reference for the sides off of the floor plan. And then for the top and bottom, you can just reference off of the first window that you did, like that. And then I'll just do this one too, I guess. We'll just finish off the whole bay. Okay, that should be good enough. Next, what I'm going to do is add in the interior walls. So before I do that, I'm going to triple click on everything here, and I'm going to right click then, and I'm going to group it together. So now my walls are all in their own group, and that is going to allow them to stay isolated from everything else. So if I turn my floor back on, now I have a group for my floor and a group for my walls. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my exterior walls. Well, first I got to switch to my interior walls layer. Then I can turn off exterior walls and floor. Now I can just do the interior walls. So the interior walls are going to be a little bit more difficult since they are not just a straight, like the perimeter like we had before. So we're going to model this in a little bit different of a way. So what I'm going to do is use my shapes tool with the rectangle. I'm just going to pick one of these wall segments to start out on. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to draw from this point right here all the way down until I get to this point right here to draw in this wall segment. And then once I have that, I'm just going to extrude this up by 10 feet. And then I'm going to extrude this face forward until I get to this corner. Next, what I can do is switch to my select tool. And then I can click on this edge right here. And then I can use my move tool and then click the control key to copy that. And I just want to copy this edge to the right until I am on that line there. And then I can again use my extrude tool and I can keep extruding this direction till I get to that corner. Alternatively, what you can do is if you want to work a little bit faster, you can use the control button within the push and pull tool, and that will allow you to extrude this back and add in extra line segments. So now you can see I have these extra line segments here at the corner, and I can now extrude this one here to the right, sort of till I get to this wall right here. The only thing that does is it adds in some extra geometry. So you can see this corner compared to this corner. There's all these extra lines and stuff that we don't need. So you'll just have to go back in after and delete out those lines using your eraser tool. Oops. Which isn't a big deal, but it can just be a little bit of extra work. So now that I'm at this wall, I can again use my plus and I can extrude past that point there, and then I can add in a third segment right there. Then I can turn my plus off and I can just extrude this segment straight out all the way. We'll go to that point there and then turn my plus back on and then go to that point right there. And then we just want to extrude all the way through all these door openings, all right? You want to just overlap all of them because then you'll obviously go back in and add in your openings after. There you can see is a wall that I missed, so you can easily just add in a couple more segments going back, starting at this edge and then dragging backward, and put one in right there. And then do another one from there to right there. And then you can just extrude this one out toward the exterior wall. Then I'm going to add in one more for this wall here. And then drag to align it with this corner so that these are both the same length. Then I'm just going to drag this one out to this corner. Add in another line segment back for the thickness of this wall, and then drag this one through and align it with that corner there. Not sure what that is. Just drag that off to the side for now. Okay. Then I'm just going to go back in. I'm going to use my eraser tool and just delete out this geometry right now before I forget. So get rid of those top lines, these lines on the side, then the lines on the bottom. And I might even turn off my AutoCAD view for this so it's a little bit easier to see what I need to get rid of. So I'm going to delete out that line, and then these two lines here, then that line there, and then this line, and this line. So if you accidentally click the wrong line, like if you're doing this and you accidentally click a line you need, like this one here, you can see that a full face went away. So you just want to click Control and Z to undo that to bring that face back. Like that. So that was an important one right there, so just undo it. So I did delete another important one. All right, there we go. Okay, so then that looks good for those interior walls there. So after I've done that, I can switch my AutoCAD back on and then just do these interior walls over here on this side. So again, use my rectangle tool. I'm going to start right here at this bottom edge, click on that corner, and then go all the way up to this corner here. Extrude this straight up, and I will just align it to the top of this wall over there. Then click my Control key to get my plus, and then drag from that edge back until I get to this point right here. Then I'm just going to extrude this one all the way through to this exterior wall. And then I can use my extrude and then just go backward to add in that wall I missed right there. Do another one for that side of the wall right there. Extrude all the way through to the front part of this closet. Extrude backward to get the thickness of the wall, and then drag this one all the way through to the exterior wall right there. And then I have one more wall right there, so I should be able to, I think, go from this outside edge all the way back maybe. Yes. So we can just do another one then all the way back to that point, and then extrude this all the way through to the exterior wall there. Now with that done, again, I can turn off my AutoCAD layer and then use my eraser and go in and get rid of all the extra line work that I don't really need. And I just want to make sure that I'm not accidentally clicking on an important edge that's going to mess up my geometry. There we go. Okay, that looks good. Now what I'm going to do is just select all of these shapes, and actually what I might do is create two individual groups. So I'm just going to go to this wall right here and triple click on it to just get all that geometry, and then right click and then make that a group. Then I'm going to do the same thing for this one over here, right click, make group. Then I'm going to select both of the groups, right click, make group. So now I have both of the walls grouped together inside their own group. Okay, then I can turn back on my exterior walls and my floor to just see how everything is looking. And then the last thing I want to do is actually add in the door openings to those interior walls. So just going to turn those exterior walls and floor back off, turn my AutoCAD back on, and then I'm just going to add in my openings for the doors. So what I need to do is, since I grouped all this together, I need to double click on my grouping, and then I need to double click again on the grouping within the grouping. So if I double click on that, it's going to take me to the group inside the group. Now, since we're working on a group inside a group, if you look, you can see the other group that we have, which is this other set of walls, is now like kind of grayed out. but it's kind of annoying having them in there when you're trying to work on just this door and you don't really need to mess around with that. So this is where the other shortcut that I told you to put on your keyboard comes in. If we click the H key, now you can see all that stuff. Everything else in the model becomes hidden and only the thing that you're working on becomes isolated. Okay. If you click H again, it all comes back. So in this case, what you can do is you can use your rectangle tool and you can add in those door openings. And then you can click on H and then everything becomes hidden and it's very easy to see where your opening is and kind of work on it. So that's what I like to do. So I'm just going to do that for all of these. So there's that double door there and then there's another double door right here inside. Click on H, then I can use my extrude tool, go up 7 feet, and then go around to the other two and just double click. Double click, double click. And it's that easy. Then you just have to click once outside of the group. Then you just double click on this one. And again, to bring back the plan, just click on H. Then we're going to switch to the rectangle tool and we're going to add in that opening there. And this opening right here. Then we should have a couple more. There's going to be one right there. And one right there. And finally one right there. Then I can hit H one more time to re-isolate. And then I can go around and double click on all of these and that's going to extrude them up that 7 feet that I did prior. Then I can click my select tool, click once outside the group and then click one more time outside the group. And you can see I have all my walls completed with all the openings put into them. Then I can turn my other layers back on to kind of get the full effect and then switch out of X-ray mode by clicking X on the keyboard. And now I can kind of see how everything is looking, which is pretty cool. So this is another good aspect of Sketchup. You can very easily get an idea of like scale because you can zoom way in on the models and kind of get like a nice perspective view inside of it. Whereas if you were doing that instead of Revit, it would be a bit more difficult. There's also a tool called, I think it's called Move Around. If I can find it. Fuse Warehouse. Advanced camera tools, maybe. They used to have a button here that kind of looked like an eyeball, and it would allow you to, oh, there it is, look around. So under camera, if you click on look around, you can go in here and zoom in and then click and drag your mouse to kind of like look around inside of the project to kind of get these, set up these 3D views and kind of get an idea how everything is looking, which is pretty neat. There's also this walk tool, which allows you to kind of like click and drag and like walk around through the model, which is kind of cool too. But when we get an Enscape, we're going to do it in a lot better of a way, but you can kind of mess around with the model and kind of get a good sense of scale like that, which is pretty cool. Okay, but the next part of this then is going to be adding in the doors and the windows. So this is where the 3D warehouse comes in handy. So if I go up here and I go to the 3D warehouse button, and you can also do it by going to window and then 3D warehouse, we can go ahead and we can search for a door. Now, if you have a door manufacturer that you know that you want to use, you could type in that manufacturer and pull up their product line and like look through their stuff. So I'm trying to think of like maybe, I don't know what a good exterior door manufacturer is. I'm just going to type in door and see what we get. But there should be tons of So So you can just find any basic door basically that is going to work. It's going to work a little bit better though if you search under products instead of models, because then you're going to get doors that have parameters in them, similar to Revit, where you can adjust the size just by inputting numbers. So let's try interior door. Not too much. Maybe wood door. Nope. Let me see if I can find something useful. All right, I'm just gonna search through models and maybe there's gonna be a good one in there that I can pull. Let's try this door by Marilyn B. Yes, load directly into my project. I can click once and I can place that, and then I can use my move tool and I can kind of grab it at the edge here and then move it sort of into my opening like that. Now you can see the dimensions are a little bit off, and some of these components will have parameters in them, like I said, where you can type in the dimensions. So if let me see if this one is editable. Okay, so if you go to edit and then component with it selected, and then go down here to dynamic components and then component options. This is where you would have those parameters like width and depth and height and stuff, but obviously this one does not have that built in. So if you ever get a situation like this where it's close, something you can do is just use your scale tool, and if you have it put in the correct position, you can just scale it at the corner in this middle one right here, and you can just drag it up and scale it to the right size. So that's not always the best way, but if you're just using this for like renderings and stuff, honestly, that's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. But you can see now it fits in there perfectly how I want it. And then I can easily just copy this door around. So I can use my move tool and click plus on the edge of it. And then I can copy this one over here to this side right there. So I have it at that edge. Then I can use my rotate tool, put my rotate pivot in that exact same location, click once, drag up to the other side of my door, click one more time, and then my third point is going to be dragging to that point right there, and then clicking, and now my door's in the right spot right there. Okay. So this door is a little bit harder to see, I guess, just because of the layers that they have everything on. But if we were to go back to the colors where I have by material and switch this back to all same, that's gonna make everything just a black line. And that's fine to do since we're done using our AutoCAD drawing underlay. But if you are using the drawing underlay, you'll just want to switch that back to by material so that you can still see the lines the way that you want them to be. But then I'm just going to do the same thing and move this one, copy it corner to the corner over here. And then I'm going to rotate. And I'm actually going to have to... So if you're in a situation like this where you're rotating, you can see how my thing is locked to that green axis. And when I click, it's going to want to rotate this forward and backward. So what you can do is hover over a point, and then using your arrow keys on your keyboard, you can click them like the left and right and down one and or all 4 of them, and it's going to rotate the plane that you're rotating on. So you want to have this blue one when you're doing something in the floor plan view. So I can rotate that around the way I want it. And again, this one is kind of the wrong size, so I could just scale it. And now I can click my X key to get the middle one here, and I can just scale this one in so that it fits the way I need it to. And that's not always the best way to do it, right, like I said, but usually it'll get the job done close enough. Okay, so then we would have to do the interior doors. So for that, you could actually model these too if you wanted to. So I'm going to show you an example of how we can quickly model an interior door. So to do this, what I want to do is go to my doors layer. And then I'm going to go here to my lines tool. And I'm going to kind of draw in a profile for a casing that's going to go around this door opening. So if I start at that corner and then draw out here to the left about 4 inches, and then draw down like 3/4 of an inch, and then draw inward, and then finish that. Then I'm just going to turn off my layers I don't need. So I don't need AutoCAD right now. I also don't need my floor. Now that I have that little profile, I'm going to select it and I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to move it backwards so that it's on this side of the wall as well. Now what I want to do is select both of those at the same time, like that. Just make a selection around them. And then I want to right click and then I want to group them together. Then I'm just going to double click on that group to make sure that I got both of them. So I did. So now once I've done that, I'm going to use my line tool and I'm going to draw basically around this door frame. So I'm going to draw a line from there to there, and then there to there, and then from there down. And then I'm going to switch back to my selection tool. Now that I've done that, I'm going to hide my interior walls layer. So now I can see those lines that I made. And then I'm going to select all of them. So I'm going to click on one, then hold my control key, and then click on the other two. And then what I'm going to do is go up here to Tools. And then there's a tool right here called Follow Me. So I'm going to click on Follow Me. And then I'm going to click on, maybe it's not going to let me do it that way. Okay, so what I got to do is click on my profile here, and I'm just going to right click and explode it. I'm going to delete out this side here, and then I'm again going to select my rail or my 3 pieces right here, and then I'm going to go to Tools and then Follow Me, and then click on my profile there. And when I do that, you can see it made a nice little sweep all the way around my opening. And then I'm going to triple click on this and group it. And then I'm going to turn my interior walls back on, and I'm going to move and copy that to the other side like that. So now I have a nice little casing going around the door frame. After I've done that, I then need to draw in the actual doors themselves. So I can just use my Shapes tool. And, well, actually, I'm going to do my Lines tool. And I'm going to start at this edge right here. And I'm going to draw backward 1 3/4 inches. Then I'm going to draw all the way the other side. And then, again, draw to there. and then draw back to here and finish that right there. Then I'm going to extrude this straight up until it aligns with the top edge right here on my casing. And then I'm going to hide my interior wall. So now basically I have that going on. Then what I'm going to do is kind of add in a line here in the middle to divide the two of these. Okay, and you could add in more detail if you wanted to. You could actually make these separate doors and actually model in like edges, and you could put in panels and stuff. So for instance, I could go ahead and I could use my offset now, and I could offset this in maybe 5 inches on each side, and then use my push-pull and make a recessed panel that's like 1/2 inch deep. Do the same thing right there, and then go to this middle piece and then move that over like 1/4 inch, and then copy it backwards 1/2 inch, and then like recess it a little bit just so that you can see that there's like 2 doors there. Maybe move it in like 1/8 inch. All right, but you don't have to go crazy with it. Something like that would be perfectly fine. But now I have some double doors in there. And what I can do with these is select all of them, like all those pieces, right click, and then I can turn this into a component so that it's kind of like a family. So I'm going to call this double door. Click on create. And now I have like a very, very basic double door family in there. And then I can move and copy this to the other parts of the project. So I'm just going to copy it over here for now and then rotate that around 360 degrees like that, and then move it from this inside corner to my corner right there, and I'm going to turn on my X-ray mode so I can actually see it easier. So now I can see that corner and I can move it to the correct spot, and it lines up correctly. And then there's going to be one more on the inside right there, and rotate like that. Okay, so now I have my 3 double doors put in there. And then since I made this a component, the nice thing is if I were to go in here and like add materials to this, it's going to update it for all of them. So if I double click on one of these and then I go to my materials section and then use my drop down and find wood, I can highlight all this stuff and then maybe give it like, let's see, like a wood veneer. Now all 3 of those in the project are all a wood veneer. Okay, but we don't need to go crazy with materials because we're going to cover materials later on in the module, and we're going to do them a lot better than that. Basically, the idea is just to model all this basic geometry in here just to kind of get a good idea of how the SketchUp tools work, so we don't need to go crazy with the detail. Okay, so the only other thing that I wanted to cover in this video is, well, 2 things. First would be just dragging in some basic furniture. So, you know, let's just add in one basic piece of furniture to one of these rooms. So I'm going to go back to my 3D warehouse, and I'm just going to type in bed, maybe. Sure, we'll just... The hard thing about the 3D warehouse is sometimes you get some really good models, and then sometimes you get some really crappy ones. So you kind of have to filter it. Usually when you click on products, you get some nicer looking stuff, but it's really not giving me many options for some reason. Okay, if I were to click on collections, there you can see is something like really nice that you could not do in Revit. So if I were to click on that, sure, we'll do this one. Give it a minute to load. All right, but once it's loaded in, you can kind of just plop it in here in one of the rooms. So just go ahead and in your model, just throw some little piece of furniture in there so that I can see that you used the warehouse and actually pulled in something. But you can see like this pillow has a ton of detail, so whenever you'd render it, that's going to look like really nice. And it's also got some pretty decent materials applied to it, which is cool. And then the last thing would be your camera views. So if I go up here to camera, right now we're in a perspective view, but then you also have parallel projection and you have 2-point perspective. So 2-point perspective is kind of weird and I almost never use it. So I would recommend not really using it. But parallel projection is going to make everything sort of like a perfect isometric view. And that's handy because if you like working in 2D, when you toggle to views like a top view or a elevation, it's going to make everything perfectly flat. So if I go back to this and turn on my floor and my AutoCAD, you can see now it just looks like a regular floor plan view. All right. Which is really handy if you like working in 2D, or you can do it in an elevation view. And then one final thing would just be adding in windows. So I'm going to see really quick if I can pull in a window family. Let's try Anderson windows and see if there's something in here. Or maybe Pella. There we go. So Pella's good because they have a ton of products. So I'm just going to search through here and see if I can find like a basic double hung window. So there's a double hung, but 2 of them. Okay, there we go. So there's a double hung single. So I'm going to load that one in. And then this one should be a dynamic component, I believe. So if I click on it and then go to edit component and then dynamic components and then component options, here you can see is all the parameters that they built into this, which is really cool. So this is very similar to Revit now. And you can specify all sorts of things about this and it's going to modify it. So I'm going to switch this to be a 2x4. Hopefully they have that in there. There's 2x4, 10, 2, 4 right there. Click apply. And that should be the correct size for the opening that we made. And then you can do other things like you could turn those grills on and off and click apply and they're going to go away or stay, which is pretty neat. But you can customize all this stuff. So, and sometimes you can customize it in a way that you just can't in Revit. It really just depends on if you can track down a good enough model or not. In this case, like these Pella windows, these are all made by the manufacturer and they put a ton of detail in them, so you can really customize them in any way you want. But now that I have that in there, I'm just going to move it and place it within my opening and then rotate like that. And then this one is slightly off, so I'm just going to, again, use my little scale trick and scale it if it lets me. Oh, I know why it's off. So I'm going to measure this opening. So yeah, that's 2 foot. That's 4 foot. So it's about 1/2 inch off in either direction, so it's not really accounting for the rough opening. So if I were to edit this, go back to component, dynamic components, component options, I should be able to just add, go to custom, and then customize this and make it 1/2 inch bigger either direction. So width I could make 24.5 inches, and then height I could make 48.5 inches. Click apply, and now that hopefully is the correct dimension. If I move it, okay, so I guess the original was correct. It was just something was off about it. So let's switch this back to 24 by 48, and then move it. There we go. That's how I want it to look. All right, then I can just copy that around, and since they're all the same size, oops. They're all the same size, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, but there's the windows in one side, and I'll just do one diagonal window, and then we'll call it a day. All right, so that looks good. So what I want you guys to do is kind of pick up where I left off here and fill in the rest of this. So I want you to add in the rest of the windows, and obviously I didn't model all the windows in all the way around, but I would like you to do that. So when I click on X, you can see all these windows that I did not include in here. So I would like you all to add in all those openings and add windows in there. And then also add in a few interior doors. Okay, and you can use the scale tool and all that to get everything the right size if you need it to be. And then add in maybe like a piece of furniture or two. But I just want to see that you followed along with this video and you kind of got everything in here and built up the floor plan in a simple way like I did. And nothing really has to match. I just want to see that you were getting into the component 3D warehouse a little bit and pulling some models in and dragging and dropping them and getting everything put into the model sort of the correct way. Don't really worry about materials or anything. If you want to, that's fine, but you don't have to. Everything can kind of just be this basic white color because we're going to be doing materials next week. So don't worry too much about it. But just model everything kind of like I did, and then kind of just get some geometry in there, get some doors and windows and furniture and stuff, and that should be good. Make sure that everything is set up on layers and that when you turn the layers on and off, things go as they're supposed to. So in this case, you can see when I do the windows, they're not turning on and off correctly. So that means I need to select all of them and then go up here to the top and switch them to be the correct layers. So now they're on the Windows layer and they should turn on and off like that. So you just want to test all of that and make sure that everything is on its own layer and that everything that needs to be grouped is grouped and stuff. And then furniture, obviously you'd want to have a furniture layer if you're putting some in. okay? But I just want you to basically fill in everything else that was not completed and just get it kind of up to this point, and that will be good enough for this exercise. And then you can just save it, and it's going to be submitted at the end of the module. All right?